The Chopin competition is starting, and as someone who went through it back in 2010, I want to share with you what it really takes to get there, what happens to participants, how they feel, how they go through it, and how it can shape the rest of their lives. Quick announcement. To celebrate the start of the Chopin competition, I'd like to encourage you in your piano journey. For the next 3 days, you can get 40% off any of my courses with the coupon Chopin 2025. When I teach students nowadays, I often get requests from parents of 11, 13-year-olds. Denis, can we start working on Chopin etudes or ballades so that these pieces can be used for the Chopin competition in 7 or 10 years? When I was 12, my parents, my teacher and I were much more humble, whether that was good or bad. And we didn't even dream at that point that I would go to the Chopin competition. But when I finally did, I actually used about 70% of pieces I had already been playing for many years, and some of them, indeed, since I was 12. And even though preparation for this competition takes months of relentless polishing, of course, and 6 months before the Chopin competition, I won the Maria Canals competition in Barcelona and already played the Chopin's Third Sonata and E minor concerto there, to match at least part of the program for Warsaw. Because the level of stress is so high and it's only natural to have sleep problems, or you may get sudden problems with new food or suddenly catch a cold, there are plenty of things that can make you feel out of shape on the very day you need to be perfect. And just imagine how ready you have to be to still do your best despite anything. Such big competitions often provide accommodation and even meals for participants, which is a great relief, I have to say, because most of us are quite poor at that stage of our careers. And I mostly chose larger competitions like Maria Canals or Chopin or Rubinstein because not only they're more effective for a career because they offer some concerts often, they're also financially possible because accommodation and flights are often covered. Of course, it can't all be perfect. For example, during my stay in Warsaw, we stayed in a big hotel and it was very noisy at night because of so many young, heavily partying tourists. And very often we would get pasta for lunch, and I remember how depressed all the Italian participants were because it was terribly overcooked. And I think that was the real reason why no Italian got a high award at that competition. Well, half joking, but still. The piano choice was a nightmare. Most participants I've spoken with over the years hate that part on competitions. You have only a few minutes to choose between something that may sound great but feel a little bit uncomfortable, or something that feels better but doesn't work acoustically so well. And that choice can literally define success or defeat, like it partly did in my case. There is also a lot of outside pressure. Some brands try to lure participants into picking their piano by promising extra practice opportunities, which are always scarce at competitions, or even hinting at future concert invitations. So honestly, it would be so much easier for everyone, like for most people I think, if there were just one standard piano, which would be like good enough, but same for everyone, and we were saved from this painful choice. But of course, it's also very important for the piano brands, because this is a very powerful marketing tool for them, especially if somebody wins a competition on their piano. This is a tremendous boost in value of this company. And people often ask me why I chose Kawai. The reason is that the Steinway, which Piotr Paleczny personally picked for the competition, turned out to be very tough and not bright enough for that huge hall. And I don't blame him at all, because once I was in his shoes choosing a piano for a music school, and the instrument that sounded great in a small room and that I approved turned into a disaster in the hall. So it happens. And I remember Marta Argerich, funny episode, when she was coming by before the competition and just tried this piano. She casually sat at that Steinway on stage and played a few bars of the Chopin's Etude number 2, flawlessly, of course. But then she said, "Oh, so tough, poor kids." So Steinway just didn't sound great and felt like powerlifting. I didn't like Yamaha that much, and I wasn't very familiar with Fazioli at that point. And I didn't dare to pick an instrument I didn't know after just a few minutes rehearsal. So Kawai, which I knew very well by then, seemed like a good alternative. and it sounded pretty good. And the first round was one of my best artistic performances of those years, although I have to say I'm skeptical of my fourth ballade from today's perspective, but still it was kind of forgivable at that age. And I also made a hilarious clumsy slip at the end of the first etude, and it was the dumbest mistake I've ever done. But the great thing about such big competitions, unlike many smaller ones, is that they're judged by real artists of high caliber, not some mediocre college professors with narrow vision and overblown egos. So these artists didn't care about a couple of regrettable slips. They cared about how you think, how you feel, and whether you have the caliber of a true artist or not. So after the first round, I got very high scores, and of course I was very happy about that. Sadly, I lost the PDF file with all the individual jury scores where I could see your ranking between the rounds, but I remember that I was very high on the chart with only a few future finalists slightly above me. But then, after the first round, Steinway, under countless complaints from participants, did something with the hummers, turning the instrument overnight into a much brighter and lighter piano. And Kawai approached me and asked like, okay, Denis, Steinway is doing this treatment. Do you think we should also follow and treat Kawai the same way? And I said like, definitely not. Like, don't touch it. It's good enough. But I don't know what other participants answered or whether Kawai secretly modified the piano and didn't tell me. I don't know. But during the second round, it just felt different. The piano seemed to me screaming easily, and I fought for the whole round. I basically fought between the need to produce a powerful sound to fill the hole and the fear of banging too harshly. And at 21, I didn't yet have the sound control tricks I have now. So I delivered a decent performance, and many musicians told me encouraging things, but I was depressed because I knew I hadn't performed with the ease and confidence I had in the first round, and I didn't succeed in playing with joy and sparking energy, and this is crucial in such a competition where everyone is super prepared. So basically the only way you can stand out is on top of your preparation to demonstrate a daring approach, to demonstrate that you are really on the riding the wave, so to say. So the scores after the second round unfortunately were noticeably worse. And I always felt especially bad when I knew that I hadn't done my best and didn't pass further. Because then I felt that it was only my fault, that I'm not good enough, that I don't deserve success. Because when you do your best and don't pass, it's actually kind of easier because you can think, oh, well, I did what I could. I'm happy with myself. And maybe some jury members are just corrupt or idiots, whatever. So it's less traumatizing. But this defeat was very hard and very traumatizing and depressing to me. And I still feel some, echoes of that emotional trauma even today. And it basically nuked all the euphoria I had after winning the previous Maria Canals competition earlier this year. And even though I still had dozens of concerts after my previous successes scheduled, it felt like the end of everything, of course. Mindset is so important at these competitions because jury members and audience sense your confidence the way dogs smell fear. I remember being absolutely shocked. Like for me, it was like cultural shock. Before the competition, we were chatting with other participants and people started to ask each other, like, what are your plans after this competition? And Lukas Genushas, who later got the second prize, he simply said like, well, after I win this competition, he said. And that level of self-confidence amazed me. Because even if I knew that the field was terribly weak and I was the best, I would never dare to say something like that, simply because I was raised in a much more humble way. And it's not an advantage, I have to say. Humility is not an advantage, it's nothing to be proud of. In a world where everyone shouts how great they are.
Nobody has better toys than I do.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do. Nobody builds walls better than me.
And where so few can truly tell where art ends and profanity begins. So unfortunately, you have to develop those qualities if you are humble, and you have to be more confident and present yourself in a daring and self-confident way. But on a positive note, taking part in the Chopin competition is still very beneficial, even if you don't reach the finals, because many managers follow this competition and some don't care that much about the jury's decision. One leading Polish manager noticed me there, and that led to a decade of regular concerts in Poland, right up until he passed away this year, sadly. So that's why my Polish career is probably over now, because I'm too lazy to write emails and beg venue directors to invite me myself. Also, people are easily manipulated by brands, because I won other competitions against basically the same people who did the Chopin competition. But no one cares, because those competitions are not as heavily promoted. So the fact that I played just 2 rounds in the Chopin competition, which I consider one of my worst results and weakest competition performances, especially the second round, and still, the fact that I participated there is valued by the wider audience more than any first and second prizes at other competitions of basically equal difficulty and repertoire. Oh, you did the Chopin competition, so you must be a great pianist. That's how the masses think. I also think that the burden of being the first prize winner at the Chopin competition is enormous. And honestly, I'm happy I don't have it on my shoulders. Among the last 5 editions, for example, there was one first prize winner who truly excited me at first. What charisma, what boldness, I thought at the time. And years later, this pianist came to give a concert in the town where I lived, and I, of course, said to my wife, like, wow, we have to go to listen, he's such an amazing pianist. And we attended this concert, of course, expectations sky high, but the recital turned out to be a complete disappointment. Chopin 4 ballades were played sloppily and kind of carelessly, as if the spark and passion had vanished once there was no competition to win. And perhaps I'm being too harsh, and probably it could have been just a bad day for that person. Yet I can't help thinking that a path like Ivo Pogorelich's or Daniil Trifonov's, who didn't succeed in securing the highest award at that competition, and still succeeded in making an absolutely brilliant career and establishing a very strong personal brand afterwards, it might be actually kind of healthier than claiming the first prize and slowly becoming a pianist no longer inspiring to follow. So if you take part in this competition and don't win, or if you follow it and your favorite artist doesn't win, don't take it too seriously, because in 5 or 10 years, it won't matter much anyway, and time will inevitably show who is who and what they are truly worth. So have fun following the Chopin competition. As for me, I have sadly so much to do working on my future digital releases. By the way, I have just registered my own recording label, and tomorrow I will do the first recording, which will be published on my own label with Etudes by Scriabin Opus 8 and Rachmaninoff Opus 39. In addition to that, I have a university position with many students to take care of, and of course, upcoming chamber project. So unfortunately, I won't be able to follow this competition, which is absolutely fine to me, honestly, because after all my competition experiences, I can't think of a more boring activity than comparing dozens of interpretations of the same pieces and trying to guess who will become a great musician and who will slowly fade into a predictable pianist over time. But I know that it is very exciting for those who didn't go personally through this bloodbath. So I wish you to have much fun, and see you next time. Thanks for watching this.